The new law of evolution in corporate America seems to be survival of the unfittest. Well, in my book, you either do it right or you get eliminated. In the last 7 deals that I've been involved with, there were 2.5 million stockholders who have made a pre-tax profit of $12 billion. Thank you. I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
Let me play among the stars.
Welcome to Foundation. If you'd like to see more episodes with great entrepreneurs like Ed Williams, Jack Dorsey, and Philip Rosedale, check out foundation.kr. Today we're talking about Bitcoin, and we're talking to the founder and CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. Let's go chat with him. So I like to start at the beginning and talk about your background, where you grew up.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in San Jose, California.
Not too far away.
Yeah. It was right back in the first .com kind of boom and all that stuff. So actually, my parents are still down there, and my first job in high school was building websites for somebody in their garage.
Were you on the graphics side, the coding side? Like, what did you...
Yeah, I was doing HTML and all that stuff. So building websites.
Did you start coding as well? Like, did you study CS in college, or...?
Yeah, I studied computer science in college and economics, but even back in high school, I was like that nerdy kid who was reading a book on Java,
I was the same way.
At lunch.
Yeah. Did you get made fun of by the older kids, or?
Just like a lot of weird looks, I think, but not really made fun of, yeah.
Yeah, so my high school was brutal. I got made fun of pretty hardcore for being into computers, but that was a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So, studied CS, and then when did you eventually make it up to San Francisco?
Well, it took a while to get back there. So I went to school in Texas at Rice University, and then I actually lived abroad in Argentina for a year. And then I came back after that to Palo Alto and then San Francisco. So I've been back in San Francisco about 3 years.
And then did you always know that you wanted to get involved in a startup, or was it something where you were thinking about working with a bigger company, or?
Yeah, I mean, even in high school, I was trying to do startups, and I was creating little web design companies, and friends of mine would always we had a new business idea, I think, every 6 months. So I definitely had the bug at an early age. And then I went through a period where, I did a startup kind of back around 2005, and then I joined, went back into the working world and tried that for a bit to kind of learn more, build my network, and then I just, went off to go do Coinbase about a year and a half ago. So
that's a pretty common theme, with entrepreneurs. When I sat down with Evan Williams a few episodes ago, and he was talking about how he used to make VHS video cassettes on how to use the internet and sell VHS tapes. So I feel like almost all entrepreneurs always had that bug from an earlier age, or something in them where they wanted to create something. So what caught your eye initially about Bitcoin? What was it? Do you remember when you first heard about Bitcoin?
Yeah, I do remember. I think it was Christmas of 2010. And I was reading Hacker News. I was actually home with my family in San Jose, and I read the Satoshi research paper on Hacker News. And it actually almost immediately grabbed me. I didn't really fully understand it, but something about it, I actually distinctly remember having the feeling that this was the most important thing I had read in the last 5 years. And it was at a point where my mother was actually, kind of like saying, hey, you need to come down and spend time with the family. Like they flew in from out of town, and I was like, I cannot stop reading this. This is the most important thing I've read. So it took me, over the next 3 months, I read it a bunch of other times and read some other things. But it took a while to finally, wrap my head around it and think through all the implications of it.
How big was the community back then?
It was really tiny, and it's funny because I actually remember feeling like I was late to the game, which people tell me now when they're just finding out about Bitcoin, they feel like they missed the boat or they're late to the game,
right.
Which neither one is true. But yeah, I remember going to a couple Bitcoin meetups, probably around 2011-ish, and there was maybe a dozen people there or 10 people there. So it was a really small community.
And so, you were involved at that time. Were you buying Bitcoins?
I think the first Bitcoin I bought was like around $8 or something. So I was kind of still wrapping my head around it and, getting ready to pull the trigger.
With all of it feels to me like there was, obviously, I guess the main Bitcoin client was the only thing that was out there. Was there any was there Electrum or any of those others, Multibit or?
Not that I remember. I think there was the Java library. The one that Mike Hearn had worked on, that was out, I believe, but not too much else.
It seems to me like it would be really scary to think, okay, well, I'm going to go and create like a web-based wallet.
Yeah.
That, pretty much is everyone is going to try and hack into.
Yeah.
Like why create a web-based wallet? Why not just create a software-based one for the desktop?
So there was a few steps along the way to get there, actually. So the first thing that I did, I was kind of trying to talk myself out of doing something in Bitcoin, honestly, because I figured it would be a huge amount of work, and I was really interested in it, but I knew that if I started to go down that path, I would just get completely sucked into it. So the first thing I did to kind of experiment in that area was myself and a friend of mine, we created an Android app that was essentially just a wallet, and it was an open source app. All the data was stored right on the phone, so it wasn't like we were taking any responsibility by storing people's information. It was kind of like a open source, use at your own risk kind of experimental wallet.
What was the name of that?
I think it was just called Bitcoin Android or Bitcoin Wallet. I can't remember. Yeah, Bitcoin Android, I think, was the name of it. And we released that out, to the world and open sourced it, and it got a lot of attention. It got, well, for us at the time, it got 15,000 installs in the first couple of weeks. People translated it into German and Russian and Chinese on Hacker News or on GitHub.
So this was all open source then?
Yeah, and Wired wrote a little piece on it, and a couple things happened. I mean, one was I realized, all right, there's something to this. It kind of validated the idea. People really are interested in this if Bitcoin becomes a little bit easier to use. That was the kind of thing we were focusing on, was try to make it really good, design focused and easy to use. And another thing happened, which was I immediately realized we had built it in a way that was a dead end. And the reason was that, all the data was stored on the phone. And so we had no way to really, if something went wrong and we had to push updates to the phone, there was data corruption. The whole kind of, last 5 years of software development that had been built around this cloud-based architecture, which had made things super reliable and redundant. I had kind of thrown all that out the window and gone back to this model on the phone because I was afraid of, taking responsibility for storing people's data, which is what a real company has to do. And this wasn't a real company; it was an open source throwaway project, and I had a full-time job and everything. And so, almost the day we released it, I realized that, and I had this realization: somebody is going to have to make a really rock-solid cloud service for this, and that is the future. The phone is going to be a thin client. It's not going to have all the brains and everything right on there. All the data, and also, of course, the side point to this was that the blockchain at that time was, 300 megabytes, so we could store it right on the phone. But it was growing exponentially.
Those were the days.
Yeah, and even then, when people installed the app, we had in the instructions when they installed it, it said, make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi, and it'll take a couple hours to download all the data and everything like that.
Right. Now it's 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that was, and then after that, I kind of had the idea, at least conceptually, of doing something more like Coinbase.
There's been over 100 hedge funds created in the last year that are interested in trading digital currency, and we have hundreds more reaching out to us, looking from traditional hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, family offices, Seems like everybody is interested in digital currency these days.
Certainly the interest is there. Brian, what are you giving these institutional clients that they otherwise didn't have access to? Obviously, you could kind of be snarky about it, say the whole point of Bitcoin is to remove the risk of intermediaries, but how does it work?
Yeah, well, Coinbase Custody is seeking to become the first qualified custodian for institutions that are looking to store digital currency. And so what that means is they need a secure, compliant way to store funds on behalf of their LPs if they're going to start investing in this space. And from what we've seen, there's probably about $10 billion of institutional money sitting on the sidelines waiting to flow into digital currency. And the main thing blocking it is just the existence of a qualified custodian like this. So that's what we're seeking to become with our Coinbase Custody product.
And where, Brian, I mean, is Bitcoin the one that for you guys has the most interest? Is it Ethereum? You know, what's the demand like out there?
Well, you know, everything started with Bitcoin really about 5 years ago here, but it's now turned out to be that there's dozens of these digital currencies. Actually, I think there's about 50 to 100 now with a market cap over 100 million. So it's almost becoming like stock market 2.0, if you want to think of it that way. And you know, the ones that are most exciting to us that we have on the platform today are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. But there's many more that are going to be added to the platform in 2018. And I think this is going to be a really exciting space for all kinds of institutional investors to make money. Are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, but there's many more that are going to be added to the platform in 2018. And I think this is going to be a really exciting space for all kinds of institutional investors to make money.
Yeah. Well, we got a question from Twitter here from Dogecar fan. He says, adopting other cryptocurrencies only has advantages for you. Why don't you do it? And by the way, where can I get that awesome Bitcoin pillow? Well, I mean, as you guys know, we hired Charlie Lee. He's like the creator of Litecoin, right? So that's a pretty big.
Now tell us a little about your background and how you got into the Bitcoin community and then creating this Litecoin.
Yeah, my background is in computer science. I got a bachelor and master from MIT in computer science, and recently I was working at Google for about 6 years. Before last year, when I joined Coinbase, I left Google to join Coinbase, which most users are aware it's a Bitcoin company.
Altcoin, we like altcoins. I gotta say, you know, a lot of the conversations we have is with people with, you know, like big retailers like Dell, Expedia, or big banks, and we have to do a lot of education out there, I guess you could say. Also with regulators and telling them about Bitcoin and how the benefits it can bring.
In the past month, Bitcoin Cash hasn't just outperformed Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency rallying 6% versus a drop of 5% for Bitcoin. It has taken the crypto crown by also vanquishing the likes of Litecoin, which was down 9% in the last month, and Ripple, which has tanked 21% during that time. And our resident crypto baller says that there is one thing that could send the cryptocurrency even further down the path of domination. BK is at the Plasma breaking it down in another crypto class. Speakers.
All right, so let's do it. First of all, let's take our skeptics hat off. We're not making a call necessarily on which one is which, but what are the catalysts out there, okay? So number one, what happened over the last couple days? Miners of Bitcoin Cash got together and proposed a development fund. What does that mean? They're going to take some of the rewards that they get from mining and put it into the fund to build stuff on top of Bitcoin Cash. Why is that important? Because that's how blockchains gain value. Think about it as an app store where things are being built in it. The bigger the app store, the better the app store. So that potentially could give value to Bitcoin Cash.
It is currently 12:19. That's December 19, 2017, 8:40 p.m. I got a update, I guess you could say, or email from Coinbase app on my phone that Coinbase had now started using Bitcoin Cash as a new trading point in our portfolios. So you have Bitcoin, which you can see Bitcoin has been decreasing. It's been retreating from its high of $19,811. It has been retreating. And now somebody had also messaged me to tell me that Bitcoin Cash had suddenly shot up like $8-something or whatever it was. But as you can see, Bitcoin Cash started after a hard fork August 1st, 2017. and it started down here at a low. Which one am I looking at? Yeah, that's Bitcoin Cash. So if I go back to the entire thing of Bitcoin Cash, you can see that Bitcoin started at a low of $200 and something, $233. It started pretty low. It was at $233, went up to $2,495, and now this day we are currently at $3,109. So Bitcoin Cash went up to this high right here.
What is happening at Coinbase?
So this is the great fear of an unregulated market, which is that someone will take advantage of that to do something illegal, or maybe not illegal, just really deceptive, and take money from investors by taking their role as a market maker. It's a great fear for Coinbase, certainly, and a great fear for anyone involved in this trading, that the regulated trading that we're used to, that have investor protections built into it, and it had centuries of investor protections that have built up over time, are not extant in the world of trading in these cryptocurrencies, and that someone could have jumped in there ahead of trades and engaged in insider trading.
Right, and so the fear is that Coinbase employees are front-running?
Or someone, right? We know that Coinbase was being attacked by hackers. There were denial of service attacks across the industry. We don't know who could have gotten into their systems. We don't know how their systems work. We know that they're not regulated and they're not monitored. I don't like to use the word regulation because it has really bad connotations. I think anytime anyone uses the word regulation in any context, we can at least think that regulations exist, at least initially, as protections.
Hey guys, Tony here. Got another video for you, and it's on Coinbase. Coinbase has been hit with a class action lawsuit on the way they handled the Bitcoin Cash launch back in December. If you guys know, there was a lot of controversy around this, people talking about insider trading that may have taken place with the likes of Roger Ver and so forth. So it says here the company is accused of tipping off employees to the launch of trading in Bitcoin Cash on its exchange, allowing regular investors to be ripped off. This is obviously not great for Coinbase, but because they are so big and because they have so much cash and they made so much money, they're valued near $1 billion now. I think they're probably just going to pay this off and this lawsuit, whatever, how much it may be. It says here the class action suit filed Thursday in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California appears to be the first filed in a federal court alleging insider trading-like claims over Coinbase's announcement that it would handle transactions in Bitcoin Cash last December. So obviously not great for them, and I hope they learn their lesson from this and they provide better service. We know that they hired Tina, if I pronounce her name correctly, Tina Bhatnagar. She was hired to be VP of Operations and Technology and to lead all operation teams at Coinbase, and to specifically to help get their customer support to up to par, because it's been crap lately. Many of us know people have been trying to get information about their purchasing, their selling, their money, wire transfers, all kinds of crap that's taking place. So I hope that they're making a move in the right direction. Once again, even though this is not great for Coinbase, I think they have so much cash and they're so big. This will probably not really affect them, and I think they will continue as usual. We all thought they were going to list Ripple XRP, and it ended up being Bitcoin Cash. So
joining us now, Brad Garlinghouse is the CEO of the cryptocurrency developer Ripple. Ripple's XRP token has surged more than 500% this year. Brad, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, just tell people what exactly Ripple does, because it's not just the currency, also you're very involved in blockchain.
Absolutely. So Ripple sells a blockchain technology to banks and payment providers and other financial institutions to do real-time settlement between banks. So today, if Morgan wanted to send $10,000 to London right now, the fastest way for her to do that is to drive to Newark or JFK and fly it there. Our view is, in a world of the internet, you can stream video from the space station. You should be able to do real-time settlement between banks, and we sell technology to banks to do that.
And the banks are getting on board with this because they know there's a lot of paper pushing and also a lot of money attached to those settlements.
For sure. So we have over 100 banks working with Ripple today around the world. I think the vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements. So a lot of the banks are very excited about democratizing how these global payments flow.
There's a belief that, you could transform the global payment system over time, although then the alternative argument is you need a centralized. You can't have it decentralized, that it actually benefits from efficiencies. I would assume you come down in the latter.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think anytime you can do something without that central counterparty, you're going to reduce friction, which is measured by time, cost, speed. So by removing that central counterparty, going direct from point to point, you can skip going from the Bank of David to the Bank of Morgan to the Bank of Mike. You just go directly to the Bank of Mike.
So if the immediate opportunity is efficiencies in this area of the actual kind of nuts and bolts sort of plumbing of the financial system, how does that relate to the value of the Ripple tokens or of the Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? They're taking on a separate life, it seems, from the future of adoption of this technology.
It's a great point, and I think one of the things we all have to remember is that the value of a token over the long term is really going to be derived by its utility. What problem is it solving? How big is that problem? How many customers do you have? There's no question there's a lot of hype in this system, and I don't actually think that's a good thing. For Ripple, we use this digital asset called XRP to settle liquidity needs between banks. So today there's $27 trillion parked at different banks around the world so they can make payments between each other. Our view is you can use a digital asset like XRP to do that in real time. Because XRP has been so efficient, it settles a transaction about 3 seconds compared to Bitcoin. So it just
passes through that currency for that period of time.
That's correct.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Crypto Nomad. My name is Leo, and guys, I'm making this quick video because we have now proof that Ripple has been added to Coinbase. Let me repeat, we have almost darn proof that Ripple is on Coinbase. Let's just go straight up into the link. There is this new post on the Ripple Reddit where there is a Ripple demo video on Coinbase. There is a lot of comments blowing up about people trying to see if this is real or not. I'm just gonna play the video and then we're gonna talk about some of the comments, okay? So let's just full screen that. It's just a bunch of clicks. There's not really a voiceover. You guys can pause this at any time, but as you can see right there, it says Ripple, some amounts, some recent activity, and users here on Reddit already checked out these wallet addresses. They are real, they match. See here top right as well, price of Ripple, which is the current price as in the market from the moment this video was recorded. Guys, this seems to be really happening, and if this is actually happening, the price of Ripple is gonna go through the roof. I'm showing you guys this video. So here we go. Let's just look at some of the comments here to see if this is really real. The receive address shown at the end is a valid address. It was first used on December 29th and it has sent and received several Ripple transactions from Shapeshift and GateHub. The 291.1 transaction showing the video does appear correctly at this address. The other transaction shown does not appear at this address, but could be easily from a different address. Also, assuming George Smith is a real name. Well, basically saying that it's not impossible to be fake, but if so, someone covered their bases. It's pretty darn convincing. The only thing I did notice is that it was trading euros, but he resides in California. But then again, he's demoing a system. Yeah, they're demoing a system. Maybe they have euros as a demo thing as well. Like, who knows? This looks pretty legit. Also, the fact that he is, the very beginning here, he seems to be clicking tabs. He's not just looking at let's just say like a blank image. This has like hyperlinks and links. If you want to buy Ripple coins, this is the moment. Okay, that's it for this video. I was gonna post a Ripple review, but this just happened and I just have to post this first. Okay. See you guys in the next video. Ciao.
Hey guys, this is Candace, Altcoin Buzz Ladies, and I'm going to do a quick video on why Coinbase will not be adding Ripple or any coins anytime soon. On coinmarketcap.com, we see Ripple standing at a strong number 3, and it has a volume right now of 1.8 billion. And we saw a huge pump last night, and we're starting to see the descending, the dump of this because of what? The rumor. And why did this rumor start? Well, on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, Fast Money, which is on CNBC, will be hosting an interview with Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, and alongside him, Coinbase President and Chief Operating Officer Asif Hirji. With those two being added into one segment on an interview of any sort, what is going to fly? The rumor that Ripple will be added to Coinbase. This rumor has been way before Bitcoin Cash was even added to Coinbase. There's a lot of speculation that eventually it will be added. But guys, just because they're appearing on an interview together does not mean that they have some huge announcement. Here's how I see this interview going. The host of Fast Money will ask them about cryptocurrency. Ripple CEO and Coinbase president will talk about the advantages and why we need in society cryptocurrency. Then they'll talk about the disadvantages. Then they'll get into probably money laundering and drug trafficking and all the bad uses of cryptocurrency and why the government is trying to regulate it. So then they'll have the ability to plug their own platforms. The CEO of Ripple will talk about Ripple, and the Coinbase president will talk about Coinbase. This is to target more audience on the financial world that do watch Fast Money and those big time financial investors to get into it while it's hot. Remember, this is the wild, wild west and a new frontier. We're at the start of it. And so the more traction and the more media that they can get on, and now they're on CNBC, that's great. They want to generate that revenue. They want to generate a new audience, and they want people signing up for them. Ripple wants people to be trying to purchase Ripple. So why won't Coinbase be adding Ripple? Well, there's a couple of reasons. There's actually 2 reasons. They have 2 lawsuits going against them. The biggest lawsuit is that they are hit by a lawsuit alleging insider trading. Do you guys remember insider trading? What the huge scam and what the huge thing was about when they added Bitcoin Cash to it? The moment they added Bitcoin Cash, it hit an all-time high of around 3,000, and it has sunk since then. There was a huge pump because of it being added to Coinbase, and then it just went flat from there. So there was a lot of speculation and a lot of rumors flying around that Coinbase had told all of their inside people, and those people working for Coinbase told their friends and family, and they bought in on Bitcoin Cash. They bought on the rumors, and the moment that it was posted, you saw a steadily decline. Unfortunately, that's what happens. That's the name of the game. It's the oldest investment strategy in the book. Buy the rumor, sell the news. So we saw that, and there was a lot of angry people thinking that Coinbase had some sort of say in it. And who's to say? We are not the judge. The judge is the person that will be overseeing this lawsuit and all that right there. So that's why Coinbase will not be adding Ripple or any coins anytime soon. There's still a lot of heat around Coinbase and what they did with Bitcoin Cash. They just did this an hour ago and announced that our January 4th, 2018 statement continues to stand. We have made no decision to add additional assets to either GDAX or Coinbase. Any statement to the contrary is untrue and not authorized by the company. Therefore, Ripple will not be added to Coinbase. If I am wrong, my goodness, then I am wrong. And I hope that they do add more coins, because there's a lot of beginners and a lot of people trying to get into cryptocurrency that go to Coinbase for their first initial investment. So it'd be great if there was a lot more coins that they were able to be chosen from. And of course, Ripple is cheap. It's $1. I see a lot of people choosing Ripple over Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum or anything of that sort, just like how we saw Litecoin was so low, and then we saw the steady rise of that. So it would be nice if Coinbase was to add more coins. It would be a lot more traction, and we could see that the cryptocurrency world is growing. But unfortunately, because Coinbase has so much heat on it right now, Coinbase will not be adding coins anytime soon. Guys, don't forget this. Right now, they're going through a huge lawsuit, and there is people watching them everywhere. The government is starting to regulate these sort of inside trading things. It's against the law to inside trade. So, with that, I just want to do a quick video on why Coinbase will not be adding Ripple and will not be adding any coins anytime soon. Don't forget that they have a lot of heat on them right now. So I don't foresee it anytime soon.
The Bitcoin bust continues as the DOJ cracks down on cryptocurrency market manipulation. Seema Modi joins us from the New York Stock Exchange with the latest on this. Seema.
Melissa, the Justice Department is reportedly launching a criminal probe into whether traders illegally manipulated the price of Bitcoin and other digital currencies using methods like spoofing or flooding the market with fake orders or wash trading when traders buy their own orders, creating the illusion of high demand. This all follows a string of recent regulatory crackdowns on crypto, including a coordinated effort by U.S. and Canadian regulators called Operation Crypto Sweep, which has launched 70 investigations into potential crypto shenanigans. And the SEC continues to crack down on ICO scams, launching a fake ICO website to educate and warn investors just last week. The heightened scrutiny also comes as Wall Street appears to be warming up to cryptocurrencies, with Goldman Sachs expected to launch its own crypto trading desk in less than a year. And many market participants I've spoken to say more regulation is actually good for the market as it weeds out the bad players. Michael Morrow, CEO of Genesis Global Trading, says we support government efforts to target bad actors and bring stability to the digital currency marketplace. We believe strongly in eliminating market participants who are not operating lawfully.
What are you seeing amongst your client base right now in terms of trading activity? Is there still that sort of interest in crypto that we saw in the fourth quarter in terms of the trading volumes?
Yeah, I think that, look, the trading volumes, as we've talked about before, are highly correlated to where the asset prices are. When the asset prices are going up, there are more people trading crypto. When the asset prices are coming down, there's fewer people trading. But in terms of account opening and so on, we're still seeing very healthy volumes there. We're very happy with the way the business is going. As your previous guest said, it's a volatile asset class, and so I personally am not surprised about the volatility. And I do think the issues that he identified as to some of the causes are right, that the regulatory clarity being probably the biggest of the issues right now.
So you operate an exchange, you operate a trading platform. I'm wondering, in terms of the regulatory uncertainty that you face, do you feel like it has increased over the past 3 months or so, or decreased? Have you gotten contacted more by regulators recently?
Well, I think we have been contacted more, and we're doing much more outreach, and the clarity has not increased. I think the actions that have been taken to correct some of the fraudulent things that have been going on, and that's been very healthy for the industry, right? I think that clarity, though, is needed, and I don't think we're close to that, unfortunately. And so we're working very hard with many of the regulators, both here in the U.S. and abroad, as to what that constitutes. And you will know, we talked about before, we have a very robust framework we use for how we think about assets to list on our exchange. But with that, we can't apply that unless there's some clarity around, is it a security, is it a utility, et cetera. We feel that there are many projects out there which are utilities and should be able to be listed. And there's some that look like securities and need to be treated differently. But some clarity is what is the starting point for being able to show any progress on that front.
So would you say that was the number one headwind in terms of adding assets to be traded on your platform? If you get clarity on that, the floodgates open for you?
Yeah, look, we would like to list as many assets as possible, right? I mean, it's in our interest too, it's in our traders' interest too. But we have taken the tack from the very beginning of being the easiest to use, most trusted. And part of being most trusted is being the most compliant. And so where there's uncertainty, we are not listing assets. And so that's why we list the 4 assets that we do list, because there is certainty around those. And as soon as there's more clarity around some of the other assets, we will list them. as long as they adhere to our framework. And so, again, we're working very closely with the regulators to try and get to a sensible regulation around this space. I mean, the analogy I use is, look, it's a bit like 5G. It's going to happen. And I think the U.S.'s question is, are we going to be at the forefront of that and shaping the way this space evolves, or are we going to let it evolve outside the U.S. and then be subject to whatever direction it takes there? I think it's far better for us to be at the leading edge of how it's going to evolve. And that would argue for sensible regulation here sooner rather than later.
Hey, Asif, it's Brian Kelly. So on that note, actually, one of my takeaways from Blockchain Week in New York last week was that all the adoption is happening in Asia, where we're getting a lot of development here in the U.S., but the consumer adoption is happening in Asia. Are you seeing that same phenomenon from your seat?
Yeah, I think that's right. So let's talk about what adoption means. You know, there's two phases of any new technology. There's the invest phase and the utility phase. We're firmly in the invest phase of this technology, and it just happens to be investing. But the utility phase, where people can actually transact in it, they can earn in it, they can send it to each other, etc. Much more of that's happening in Asia. And that's because they have more closed economies, they have more volatile currencies that they deal with. It's just, the value proposition is much tighter. And so if you look at our utility products, so we have the Coinbase wallet, which you can store and send crypto with, or earn, which is a way to actually earn crypto. Those things have huge user bases, much of which is outside the U.S.
Asif, is there any iota of concern on your part that regulators will come down and decide that something is a security versus a commodity, and that would cause you to rethink what you have listed already on the platform?
Look, I guess that there's a chance that happens. I think it's a very low chance. I really do believe the amount of dislocation that would cause, not just to us, but the entire crypto space, is going to be enormous. And I think it would force a lot of projects and people, frankly, to move offshore. And like I said, it's a bit, to me, it is a bit like 5G in that it is going to happen. And the choice in front of our regulators is, do they want to be at the forefront of shaping how it's going to happen, or are they going to let others decide in the way in which it's going to evolve? And I think that would be dangerous if they let others decide.
All right, we do want to get to our Bitcoin alert. Asif, you've got a big announcement that you want to share. First on CNBC. Some of it leaked earlier. That was the acquisition of Paradex. Some of it did not. So what is your announcement?
Yeah, so look, you and others have always been asking us when and why can you not list more assets? Why can you not let us trade more things? And I'm delighted to announce two things today that are going to significantly increase the amount of assets that people can trade on Coinbase. The first is the launch of Coinbase Pro, which is an active trading product. It's brand new. It is a set of institutional grade products and services, as well as direct market access. It's an evolution of our GDAX platform, which we launched 3 years ago and has been super successful. But GDAX, we're now basically splitting in two. The Coinbase Institutional suite of products, which we announced last week, and Coinbase Pro now for the individual investor. And then secondly, we bought Paradex, which is the leading relay in the world. And this will allow you to trade literally hundreds and hundreds of tokens from your own wallet. And we're actually going to make that compliant with the US rules. And so day one, it's going to be available for our international clients to trade all these tokens. And then as soon as we can, we are going to turn it on in the US, where our US customers can also trade all these tokens that they want. And so, we're greatly increasing the number of things that you can trade. We're doing it in a compliant way. And we're just delighted that this will significantly enhance the proposition for our customers in terms of what they want to trade and how they want to trade it.
But again, that goes back to the regulatory unclarity. You've got the token trading available for international traders, but not available to the U.S. traders.
Yeah, so we're actually going to set this up where it's in the U.S. It's going to be a bulletin board. So it will be. It's not an exchange. It doesn't look and act like an exchange. It's not a matching engine. It's a bulletin board. And in that way, we think, just like bulletin boards work in equity markets, we will be able to offer these assets for people to be able to trade through a bulletin board mechanism in the U.S. And it'll be slightly different outside, but we will allow, we will get this to be compliant, and we will allow our customers to have access to it as soon as possible.
Hey, this is Brian Kelly again. So Paradex, as I understand it, is what we call a decentralized exchange, which essentially lets you to trade any type of token. So are you going to have particular tokens? Which ones will you start with? Will it be a basket?
Yeah, so it's not. Please let me correct you. It's not a decentralized exchange. It's not an exchange in that sense. It is a bulletin board. And that is a very, I'm being pedantic about it because the U.S. regulator views exchanges one way and bulletin boards another way. This is a bulletin board. And if it's a bulletin board, you can actually offer a much broader suite of products there, tokens, if you want, to trade. And so our hope would be that most of the tokens that are already trading on Paradex, we will be able to offer in the U.S. in a compliant manner.
All right, Asif, we're going to leave it there. It's always a pleasure having you on Fast.
Great.
Appreciate it. Asif Hirji of Coinbase. The announcement basically, right, going after the institutional investor, this is what investors have been waiting for, right? The flood of money to come into this space.
Well, again, I'm not sure how much of this has been deployed yet. I think there's a lot of people kicking the tires. There's a lot of big institutions. They can't do anything until they have custody laid out. Brian's talked about the different ingredients here. So I think guys like Coinbase are doing everything they can do to have the infrastructure and have the roads built. And I think, the lull in the trading here I can't speak to because, frankly, I think the people that are in the market right now are the ones that are doing all the activity. We haven't gotten a lot of new money.
Mm-hmm. I asked a question about securities versus commodities because they had that discussion at Blockchain Week about Ether.
Right.
And Ethereum's already listed on the Coinbase platform.
Ether, of all of those that are listed on Coinbase,
could be viewed.
Ether is probably the one that everybody has questions about.
Right. Is there any concern in your view that Ether could be considered a security?
Very little.
Okay, very little.
Very little, and here's why. Listen, we can go back to the history of Ethereum and the initial coin offering and how that was done, but the way that Ether functions today, it truly is the fuel for the decentralized internet. So it no longer acts as a security. It acts just like a commodity, just like oil does. So I would be surprised if Ether became a security.
So there's a lot in that area. Let me start with the technology, distributed ledger technology. Incredible promise. It can drive efficiencies not only in the financial markets, but in a lot of markets. Fine. Two areas in the financial markets where distributed ledger technology has come to the fore. Cryptocurrencies. These are replacements for sovereign currencies, replace the dollar, the yen, the euro with Bitcoin. That type of currency is not a security. Let me turn to what's a security. A token, a digital asset where I give you my money and you go off and make a venture. You have some company you want to start or something you want, and in return for me giving you my money, you say, you know what, I'm going to give you a return. Or you can get a return in the secondary market by selling your token to somebody. That is a security, and we regulate that. We regulate the offering of that security, and we regulate the trading of that security. And that's our job, and we've been doing it for a long time.
So you're saying the classic definition of a security, you invest in a common enterprise with an expectation of profit. You're saying the way you look at most ICOs, they are securities.
Correct.
Are you planning now to make a clear statement on that? Because there seems to be a lot of confusion about whether anybody is going to get approved or not.
Bob, I hope I just did. If it's a security, we're regulating it. And let me just, we've been doing this for a long time. And we've built a $19 trillion economy, a securities market that's the envy of the world, following these rules. If you have an ICO or a stock and you want to sell it in a private placement, follow the private placement rules. There's no secondary trading. You have to do that. If you want to do an IPO with a token, come see us. File financial statements. File disclosure, take the responsibility our laws require, and we're happy to help you do that public offering.
You seem to be saying that the SEC is not going to be changing the definition of a security just to suit the ICO community. Is that right?
I'm certainly not going to support that.
Okay. Let me move on. What about altcoins? We have discussed Bitcoin, but there are other altcoins out there. There is Ether, for example. There is Ripple. Is Ether a security?
So, Bob, I'm not going to comment on specific crypto assets and whether they are a security or are not a security, but you captured the definition very well. Now, am I giving you my money for you to go off in a venture, or I'm relying on your efforts and the efforts of your colleagues?
But you understand there are lawsuits, I'm sure you know, right now, for example, over Ripple, about whether it is or is not actually a security. That's partly one of the issues here. And obviously, how the SEC feels is very important.
No, we are not going to do any violence to the traditional definition of a security, which has worked well for a long time, and I believe will continue to work well.
Is it possible the SEC might say these were securities at one time and no longer are because they're not centrally controlled, for example?
Look, that's a question that is out there, and will be answered in the specific facts and circumstances. But we've been doing this a long time, and there's no need to change our fundamental approach.
So if the SEC cracks down, and we know already in China they've cracked down on initial coin offerings and so forth, what happens for you guys? Does that represent a material risk that you could be involved, cast judgment upon for helping facilitate all of this, or would it simply be a business risk because then people wouldn't have as much demand to store these?
Yeah, so we've stayed out of adding any ICOs on the platform to date just because of that regulatory uncertainty. And I do think there's a good chance that some percentage of those ICOs will end up being considered securities. The head of the SEC has said as much. And so we're approaching that area very cautiously. Whenever we decide to add a new asset onto the platform, we really look at a number of factors. And we released our GDAX new asset trading policy just a few weeks ago that gives some more insight into how we do this. But we look at things like what the regulatory risk is. We do some diligence on the team. We do a security audit of the coin, what the customer demand is. And we consider all of those factors before adding it to the platform. So we're really looking to provide a safe place where customers can have assets that they trust and participate in this market.
You brought up Ethereum, and I think the crypto world last week took a lot of notice of a speech by a senior SEC official who basically said Ethereum and Bitcoin are not securities. He focused a lot on decentralization. That's apparently the key thing, that no one's controlling it, no central actor, no third party. Now I want to read you, he didn't bring up Ripple, but I want to read you something. This is what he said. There will continue to be systems that rely on central actors whose efforts are a key to the success of the enterprise. Doesn't that sound a lot like Ripple and XRP?
I think it sounds a lot like the ICO market. I think these ICOs are issuing tokens. They haven't even released any code. There's no working code, and there's no open source community developing that code. And so they're releasing tokens, and those are effectively what I think the SEC is saying. They've really said for a year now. They're just getting a little more aggressive about it. They're saying these are securities. I think it's really clear that XRP is not a security. And I'll give you three key arguments here. One is, if Ripple, the company, shut down tomorrow, the XRP ledger would continue to operate. It's open source, decentralized technology that exists independent of Ripple. The second is, if you buy XRP, like if people buy an XRP, they don't think they're buying shares of Ripple. Like there's a company called Ripple. We are a private company. We have investors. People have bought shares of Ripple, the company. But buying XRP doesn't give you ownership of Ripple. It doesn't give you access to dividends or profits that may come from Ripple.
But doesn't your treasury management, because Ripple does have this hoard of XRP, won't that sort of inform the success of XRP in the long run?
No, I don't think that our ownership of XRP gives us control. I mean, it is an open source, decentralized technology. Just because we own a lot of an asset, it's a little, Saudi Arabia owns a lot of oil. That doesn't give them control of oil. So I think there's a whole lot of examples where XRP behaves and acts a lot more like a currency, like a commodity. The third point, if the first one is it exists independently, the second one is it's the ownership point, and the third one really back to utility. XRP is solving a problem. Securities there's no utility in a security. So, look, I think the SEC, I look forward to them clarifying some of these things. I thought them announcing that Ether was not a security was actually a positive thing for the industry, for sure. And I look forward to their further decision making.
Yeah, and yet though the exchanges have still been skittish about. There's the mainstream exchanges like Coinbase are adding new currencies slowly, but we're still waiting for them to add XRP. Do you think we'll get a green light from the SEC this year that kind of gives them the cover or the safety to go and add?
Well, I can't speak for what Coinbase decides to or decides not to do. I think 2 days before the Hinman speech, Coinbase announced they're going to list Ethereum Classic. So I think they're moving forward with those things. I mean, ultimately, I think all of the exchanges around the world are making decisions that are best for them. There's economic interest in that if there is both institutional trading and fund flows as we solve problems from dollar to, Coinbase is largely dollar denominated. as we solve problems at scale for institutions, I think it's in Coinbase's interest to, to participate in that. But ultimately, look, Coinbase will decide what they want to decide. XRP is listed and has liquidity at, I think, around 75 exchanges around the world. That has expanded a lot as we have brought volume and as we have brought, these institutional flows. We are not, and to be very clear, we are not focused. I've said this a bunch. The consumer speculator is not our target market. Our target market are financial institutions that we can solve a big problem measured in the trillions of dollars using these technologies.
Hey everybody, this is the digital asset investor. Normally I don't make videos on Sunday, but I'm driving down the road and I decided that I would make this video because there's some really huge things, or one in particular really huge thing that's going on right now, and it's the ultimate buy signal of XRP, and I wanted to make everybody aware of it if you haven't heard it anywhere else. I was watching Alex Cobb this weekend, and he mentioned a video that he kept hearing about that the Modern Investor had done, who's another YouTuber. So I went over and watched the Modern Investor video, and basically he was talking about recently, Brad Garlinghouse was interviewed by Fortune magazine, I believe. And he said the Modern Investor said he was talking to a friend, and the friend asked him if he thought it was odd that in that article, Brad Garlinghouse basically came out and called Coinbase out and said that they should add XRP to Coinbase. And then Alex Cobb had talked about that a little bit as well. Anyway, by the way, both of those guys are great YouTubers if y'all need some people to listen to besides me. But anyway, so what he was talking about though on this video is that he was talking about Brad Garlinghouse's personality and how that seemed kind of weird. So for those of you that have not seen Brad Garlinghouse many times in an interview, and the others too, what's interesting about Brad Garlinghouse and most responsible CEOs is that they usually speak in very measured terms when they're speaking. They're Brad Garlinghouse especially, there's a lot of canned things that he talks about. Many of the things he says over and over and over, and you can tell when he's talking that he's trying to never get ahead of himself and say something that he shouldn't have said. And so anytime in the past that Coinbase has come out and talked about adding XRP or any other coins, anytime that Brad Garlinghouse has been asked about what he thinks about them not adding any other coins, his response has always been the same. He says that's Coinbase's decision, that I have nothing to do with that, and hopefully down the road they will, and that's kind of how he talks. Never asking, saying I think they should, or I don't know why they haven't. He's never been like that before. Well, in this Fortune article, he actually came out and he said that basically he told them that they should list it, and they should list it. It's not a security. It's this and this and this, and so it was very uncharacteristic for Brad Garlinghouse to come out and to speak like that about Coinbase or anybody else, or to come out and in a way kind of challenge them and say, why don't you go ahead and list it? And so the question is, and what's kind of got YouTube and social media abuzz to Ripple XRP followers is what's going on. Why now? Why would Brad Garlinghouse come out and do that? Well, I think it's very clear, in my opinion, what this is about. First, you have to look at Coinbase, and you have to look at Coinbase and say, okay, what has Coinbase said over and over and over about why they haven't added certain coins? Even though we've all, as XRP owners, we've all disagreed with what they said, but they said that they haven't added any of them because of regulatory uncertainty. In other words, they didn't want to add something that would later be declared a security when they if they don't know one way or the other. And so that was the reason, that was their excuse that they've used over and over and over for not adding different digital assets like XRP. In the meantime, they're adding things like Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin Cash, and I believe Gemini is guilty of the same type thing. But anyway, back to Coinbase. So the question that everybody's asking is, what's different this time? And I think that I've been watching Brad Garlinghouse for a good 2 or 3 years now, and the way he speaks and what he says and what he doesn't say. And like I've said in the past on some of my videos, I learned a long time ago that words mean things. And in the case of Brad Garlinghouse, when you see him do something that's not characteristic of Brad Garlinghouse, what it reminds me of is how the old thing about attorneys, when attorneys in a court of law never ask a question that they don't already know the answer to. And that's what I think's going on here. Brad Garlinghouse, the only reason that he completely went off the reservation and did something he never does is because he already knows the answer from the SEC, and he knows that Coinbase already knows that the SEC is not going to declare XRP as a security. And for that reason, and that reason only, Brad Garlinghouse came out and did something that he never would do. And the only reason he did it, just like the only reason an attorney in a court of law would ask a question, is because he knew he already had the answer. And he knows Coinbase already has the answer. And for that reason, he came out and said that. And so what I will say to you now, if you are not an XRP holder, quickly go and watch as many of my videos, watch Alex Cobb's videos, watch Jungle Inc., watch Crypto Nomad, anybody who does XRP videos, and will explain to you why you need to own XRP besides the issue I'm talking about right now. You need to go out and buy it now. Buy as much as you can afford to lose, but buy as much as you can and still not be hurting if it went to zero, as we would always say. But that's what we're looking at, and I believe that very soon, and if for a lot of you will remember, Coinbase added. They didn't add, but they announced that they were going to add Ethereum Classic, and then within 2 or 3 days, the SEC came out and they declared that Ethereum was not a security. Okay, so that's what's going on right here. And so if you do not own XRP, go get it now. They're having a fire sale right now because of probably manipulation in the market. Okay, I am the digital asset investor, and this is not investment advice. I just want to say that. And for those of you that are new, and for those of you that have been listening, if you're sitting on your wallet, no pun intended, and you still haven't gotten a Ledger Nano S so that you can put your digital assets in the safest place that they can be, then go into the description of this video and you can buy one right there. From it, my link takes you straight to the Ledger wallet, to their website, so that you can buy it from them. Do not go to Amazon and buy one of these things. Do not buy it from anywhere else except from Ledger themselves, because there have been hackers that have been problems, and they've jimmied with these things. So anyway, thank you for watching the video.
You might have heard of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, but have you heard of Ripple or XRP? It's a hot new cryptocurrency and it's blowing up. We'll walk you through how to buy it now. So the first thing you need to do is buy either Ethereum or Bitcoin. I know it sounds complicated, but you actually have to have that instead of cash if you're in the United States. It's just the easiest way to buy Ripple right now. So to do that, I like to use an app called Coinbase. So you open up Coinbase and you're gonna go buy or sell. And this is assuming you've already created an account. You're gonna select the account you wanna pay from. So in this case, I'm just using my bank account. And then I'm gonna choose to buy some Ethereum. It's currently trading at $886.29. We'll enter in $20, which is gonna get us 0.020 Ethereum. And we're going to buy it instantly. And our purchase was successful. So now we can see that I have a total of 113 Ethereum. Now we're going to need to transfer this to what's called a Ripple exchange, one of the exchanges that actually uses Ripple instead of just Litecoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And to do that, we're going to have to send the Ethereum to another exchange. In this case, I'm using Binance, but there are several others, including BitSane, that I've used before too. Once you're on the Binance page and you've logged in, you want to go to the top of the page and you'll see something called Funds. Click that and then go down to Deposits, Withdrawals. Now you're going to see a whole list of different cryptocurrencies, and what we're going to want to do is deposit the Ethereum that we bought in Coinbase into Binance. And to do that, we're going to have to get a special address. We're going to find the Ethereum here under the Deposits and Withdrawals list. Next to that, you see Deposit, Withdrawal, and Trade. We're going to click Deposit because we're going to deposit from Coinbase. And now what it's going to do is develop what's called an ETH deposit address or Ethereum deposit address. It's a long, crazy code. And we're going to copy that and now go back to Coinbase. And on the left, you're going to see all your accounts. And you're going to want to go to the ETH wallet, your Ethereum wallet. And under that, you'll see a button that says Send. So long as you have money in there, you can do this. You click Send, and now you're going to paste the address that we just brought from Binance into the top of the page. And we can choose how much we want to send to Binance. So in this case, I'm just going to send the $20 that we bought earlier. You can add an optional note, and you'll see that I'm going to have a network fee of 39 cents, which is not too bad. And on my phone, I'm going to have to confirm this with a two-step verification, which is just keeping everything nice and safe. And I'll type that in now. And now it says your transaction is on the way. So what we've done is we've taken the Ethereum that we purchased in Coinbase and sent it over to Binance, where we're going to be able to use that Ethereum to buy Ripple. And that takes about 20 minutes to an hour. So now we've got some Ethereum in Binance, and we're going to use that to buy Ripple. So to do that, we're going to go to the top here, next to XRP and Ripple, and we're going to click Trade, and we're going to go down to XRP/Ethereum. At the bottom of the page, you can see Buy XRP. That's what we're doing. It says max amount 8, so we'll type that in. Okay, so now you can see we have 52 Ripple. So now you can leave it here. You can buy other cryptocurrencies with it. You could watch and see if it grows, or you could store it offline in a safe wallet. It is kind of a complicated process, but that's sort of how this goes. Thanks for joining us. That's how you buy Ripple.
So quickly, by show of hands, how many people in the room have used Coinbase? Okay. That looks like about 80% of the room, I think. So Brian, when you first started about 5 years ago, did you ever think you'd be in a room with like 500 people and roughly 80% would have used your product?
Not really. I mean, I had a lot of self-doubt about that actually in the early days. Around 2011, I was working at Airbnb as a software engineer, and I was tinkering with this kind of stuff on nights and weekends, trying to get my friends interested in it. And like, really, most of my friends didn't get it, or they thought it was like a stupid idea. And so I had to make this decision, like, do I really want to quit my good day job at Airbnb and go try out and do this? Did I really want to be like that Bitcoin guy? It was really sketchy, even at that time especially. So it was a really scary thing to do.
What gave you the conviction to do it?
Actually, I think the thing that gave me the conviction was that I applied to Y Combinator and got accepted. And so I had a lot of respect for Paul Graham just from reading his essays online and stuff like that. And the fact that he was willing to give me a check for like $150,000, it was like, wow, somebody believes in me. I'm not crazy. That's what made me quit.
So when you pitched at YC Demo Day in 2012, how did most investors at that time react?
Most investors didn't understand it at all. Sort of the name of the game at Demo Day was to run around and collect business cards as best you could. And so I collected about 30 of them. Actually, I have this memory of going up to some group of people, some investors at that event. They'd all had a couple drinks at that point, and I kind of launched right into my pitch. I was like, this novice entrepreneur, and I was like, we're going to change the financial system. I made this wallet. It's like digital currency. And they started asking me these questions, and I realized after about 5 minutes that they were just kind of making fun of me. And they were like, tell us how this is going to make lots of money. Sure. So, I guess digital currency people had the last laugh on that one. But, yeah.